Today on the Big 3 in 30, North Carolina fires coach Hubert Davis.
Hubert Davis, who has served as head coach for 5 seasons, will not return to coach the Tar Heels.
Purdue prepares for a Sweet 16 matchup with Texas.
It's time for us to really get it down into the Sweet 16.
And Illinois plays Houston for a spot in the Elite Eight.
Houston's got Kingston. You guys have Keaton Wagler.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the 3 biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. After a second straight exit in the first round, the University of North Carolina fired head coach Hubert Davis after 5 seasons at his alma mater. Isaac Shade goes over what went wrong and what's next in Chapel Hill.
The University of North Carolina has made a leadership change in its men's basketball program. Hubert Davis, who has served as head coach for 5 seasons, will not return to coach the Tar Heels. The recommendation was made by Director of Athletics Bubba Cunningham and Executive Associate Athletic Director Steve Newmark, who will transition to AD on July 1st, and it was accepted by Chancellor Lee H. Roberts today, end quote. The line that stuck out to me most from this press release was this from Bubba Cunningham, and this was striking to me, and I think sums up my feeling on the whole matter. He said, quote, "We must move forward in a way that allows our team to compete more consistently at an elite level." And I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. Hubert Davis is a good man. He loves his players. He has led his program with ethics and high morals and in a way that honors people. But the problem is that the standard at North Carolina is higher than what Hubert Davis was able to achieve. And so while I'm a glass half full, a slow to move on type of person, I do think this is the right call for North Carolina. So I appreciate what Bubba has said there. Now, it doesn't officially use this word in the press release, but Matt Norlander from CBS Sports, and I've seen it from a few other national people as well, says that, quote, "The condition of Hubert Davis' split with UNC is a firing." So I will use that word. It's in the title of this episode. North Carolina has fired North Carolina. And I think that's important language, because we talked about maybe Coach Davis retires or resigns. Maybe there's a mutual parting of ways. But ultimately, this is a firing. Do not make a mistake. Now, what I'm very grateful for is that Norlander goes on to say Coach Davis, will be paid in full. But this is a firing by definition, not a resignation. And that is an important distinction, right? And I'm very grateful to the program for honoring, not trying to shortchange Coach Davis and not pay him what they owe him. So I feel like they are doing that, right? We've seen other programs try to not do that, right? And so that's good. Coach Davis posted a statement tonight. It reads this way, quote, "Tonight I was let go by the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill." That's odd language. I don't know why the Chapel, that's like somebody wrote this for him. You know what I mean? Quote, "My desire was to continue to coach here. The opportunity has truly been such a blessing. I thank Jesus literally every day for giving me the opportunity, relationships, and experiences with the kids and my staff. I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish together. My goal is to coach again in the very near future." End quote. Just a couple things from players that I saw. Caleb Wilson, quote, "Thank you for everything, Coach Davis, one of the best men and coaches in my life," end quote. Jackson Watkins, former walk-on, who's been on this show before, says on Twitter, quote, "Thank you for changing my life, Coach Davis," end quote, with a picture of him hugging Coach Davis coming off the floor. And that is where I just want to start here, as I always try to remind us to do, is this type of humanity of it, right? We'll get to my takes on it and the roster and where you turn next and all of that. But that falls behind the humanity of this moment, which starts with Coach Davis and his family. I've said it before this weekend. My kind of lasting image is Coach Davis and his wife Leslie on senior night, sitting in front of the scores table with his arm around his wife, watching his son Elijah make his senior speech at North Carolina, with he and Seth Trimble being the two seniors on this team. This is a family man who cares so deeply for his family. And by that, I specifically right now mean biological family, but I would also extend it to mean his North Carolina family. And remember, this is Coach Roy Williams, like hand-picked successor. And it's difficult as we look at that because the hand-picked successor at another school close proximity is going very well and very consistently. And it has not been the same at North Carolina. So there's the Coach Davis and his biological family side of it. My thoughts go out to them. Like this is a very difficult day. It's been a very difficult multiple days. My thoughts go out to not only him, but specifically his family, right? Like think of all the things you've got to endure in a moment like this when it's such a public thing. My thoughts go out to the staff. As of this moment, we don't yet know what will happen to the staff. And by that, I mean not only the assistant coaches, let's name them to honor them, right? Brad Frederick and Pat Sullivan and Jeff Lebo, Sean May, and Marcus Page, the 5 assistants. But then you've got all the support staff that's around it. You think of a guy like Eric Hoots, who's like the dude that does it all for this program. You've got all the managers and just on and on and on. I forget, it would take forever to name all these people you think of, but they all are at danger of losing jobs, livelihoods, relationships. That's all on the table right now. And so my heart goes out to them as well. I'm curious to see when a new coach is hired, if and who is retained. The support staff, office workers, people around, who is kept, who is retained. So again, please, in a moment like this, yes, we're going to talk about everything, all the ins and outs, but as always, we have to start with the humanity. My truest thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved here. Now, at the same time and in the same breath, as hard as this decision is, I'm in favor of it. I get a lot of blowback from people because I don't come quickly to these emotional things like, well, you got to move on from Hubert Davis because they missed a box out. It's like, no, that ain't it. But over the period of time, even I have come to feel this way. The standard of North Carolina elite excellence has simply not been there consistently enough and often enough. That's true. When you are a blue blood program, a top 5 program, heck, not top 5 is not enough. Carolina is a top 3 winningest program of all time. Most Final Fours in the nation, right? Like all of these things. If you look around and you're like, you know what? We don't have a top 5 coach in the sport, then a change has to occur. And I know there are people running to both sides of this. This was a mistake or this is the best day ever. Wherever you're at on that, I think we can all agree that Coach Davis was not performing in terms of wins and losses as a top 5 coach in the sport. And that is the standard at North Carolina. You know the deal when you sign up for it. And unfortunately, it didn't meet that. Now, obviously, Hubert Davis is a good man, a great man, an honorable man. But the coaching struggles have been there as well. And the problem is, the hard thing is, I think a lot of people struggle to separate the two things, but we have to be able to. I know a lot of really good people that are not good at their jobs, whether that's coaching basketball or working at a supermarket. The problem for Coach Davis is his is a lot more public than you're not good at bagging groceries, which who does that anymore? You know what I mean, though? And here's the other part of that. The hard thing about hiring family, whether it's the head coach or his 5 assistants, it's also hard to fire family. And so if you are the athletics department and you want to hire from within the family, you got to be okay with firing them if it doesn't work out, whether that's at Carolina or Pat Ewing at Georgetown or whomever. That's the reality. Now, the truth is, in this half decade that Coach Davis has been the head man at North Carolina, wow, almost 5 years to the day, because it was April 1st, April Fool's Day, when Coach Williams retired, which is next Wednesday. Wow, that just hit me. Almost 5 years to the day. In that time, there have been some very high highs and there have been some very low lows. Some people, revisionist history, retroactive, whatever, remember the entirety of Coach Davis's first season as great. And oddly enough, this is also, I'm reminding myself of this. My audition for this program to be the host of Locked On Tar Heels was I did a segment. My take was, in Coach Davis's first year, be patient with Coach Davis. He's getting it figured out. And there were times where that came true, and there were many others that didn't. In that first year, obviously, Carolina struggled throughout the regular season and then found it. They beat Duke to end the regular season and then just blitzed through the NCAA tournament. Like the biggest margin of victory ever in the first round, or for an 8-9 or something over Marquette. I forget what it was. It was the biggest something margin. Then beat the defending national champion Baylor all the way to beating Duke in the national semifinal in the Final Four. That is something that will go down in history at North Carolina. Hubert Davis is a legend for that. Obviously, North Carolina loses that Monday night, coughing up the biggest halftime margin, the biggest choke job in national championship history.
The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year, of course. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cutdown. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action.
Welcome back to the Big 3-30 College. Purdue wants to get back to the Final Four and sits 2 wins away from playing for a title in their home state, but the Texas Longhorns stand in the way first in the Sweet 16. Nick Garvin previews the matchup on Locked On Boilermakers.
It's almost time for us to really get it down into the Sweet 16, potentially an Elite 8 with a win over Texas. So, Evan, how are you feeling right now about Purdue? I know it's kind of been an up and down season, but as we sit here, where's your mind at with all this?
I'm happy now, man. One, thanks for having me. It's cool to do this. It's been awesome following your journey too. I mean, yeah, man, given where this team was just a couple weeks ago, the fact that, they couldn't beat really good teams, just didn't seem like they were having fun. Offense wasn't clicking, defense wasn't clicking, especially. And then obviously they go on the run the Big Ten tournament and they found something to now find themselves, a favorable matchup in the Sweet 16, and then 1 win away from coming home to Indy. It's crazy. But then that, obviously we expected this team coming into the year. So I'm glad that they were able to figure their stuff out and get back to this position. 3 straight Sweet 16s. We're spoiled, man, as fans, but it's I'm not gonna take it for granted.
Yeah, that's something I love to throw around. 3 of 3 now, 3 years in a row, but 7 out of 9 trips to the Sweet 16 in 9 years for a program that a lot of people say is the trendy upset pick just because you lose a couple of tough games. We've had the success to back up that not necessarily being the case. And that's why this is so special this year specifically, because this is a year with tons of expectations. Maybe the highest expectations have been under Matt Painter for a team, because this is the senior year of Braden Smith, of Trey Kaufman-Wren, of Fletcher Lawyer. And after a tough end to the season, you even hear Braden Smith saying, we're ready. Everything is still in front of us for the Big Ten tournament and for March Madness. We're going to flip that switch. Evan, do you feel like they flipped that switch? It's hard to deny 6-0 in your last tournament games, first 2. But what do you think happened there? What do you think is the thought process behind those seniors going into these games, and how are they able to really turn it around to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it has to go down. It has to come down to the 3 seniors. They've been as it's been discussed, they've seen every, result it feels like you can see in college basketball outside of obviously reaching the pinnacle of the mountaintop. You heard people talking, was it after maybe a few losses in the Big Ten, did they kind of just, not check out, but just know, hey, this is not in front of us anymore. So just get to the regular season, get to the end of the regular season in one piece type of thing. I don't know if that's true, but at the same time, it's hard to deny when you see them make that run to the Big Ten tournament. Michigan team that, kind of whooped them at Mackey earlier in the year, playing their fourth game and going into that game, I was just like, hey, just keep it Michigan's Michigan, but hey, you made it to the championship game. You probably did a lot for your seeding, but the Finland went out and kind of took it to Michigan, which is not something I expect to see. It's hard to deny that switch hasn't been flipped. And then obviously they took care of Queens, and the fact that you could go into a game like Miami, we were just talking about on our podcast we recorded before I jumped on here, probably played a B- game for Purdue as a collective group. Braden played his game in the last 2 years, if not his whole Purdue career, outside of maybe FDU. And you're still able to pull out a win against a pretty solid ACC team that's got all the tropes that people say it can beat Purdue with athleticism and length. I think it's all BS, but the fact they're able to do that and not a perfect game and, get down 8 or 9 points, take the lead and then kind of be able to hold Miami at arm's length. That just shows, I think, that the experience showing up, and just the fact that these seniors know this is it. There's no next season now. And it's just really impressive to see.
Yeah, run me through it. I'm glad that you brought up that Miami game. I know that we were both watching that one, but it was an interesting matchup there because in the first half of that game, you're thinking, is this the Purdue team that ended out the regular season? Braden Smith all over 8 times in that game against Miami, which we just haven't seen from him as of late. And the Boilermakers, they get out to a 2-point deficit at the half. What do you think shifted outside of Braden Smith, who played a great, or not necessarily great, but he played a lot better in the second half compared to where he was in the first half? Outside of that, what do you think shifted at halftime for Purdue to come out and pretty well dominate that second half and route to a 10-point victory?
As with this team, I think it started on the defensive end. If you watch the little film that Boiler Ball put out, Painter was harping on defense. He's still a defensive coach, hard despite his offensive tendencies now. But they were letting, guys get to the rim, which, Miami's a good team. They've got guys who can do that. But as you said, we kind of saw some tendencies that we saw at the end of the year of just guys just getting to the rim, virtually with ease. Not getting defensive rebounds, letting them get 2-3 more opportunities. And I think just been able to kind of stop that. Obviously, Miami shot really well in the first half. They were a 35% 3-point shooting team on the year, and they were shooting 50% or something or better at half. So you were hoping Water would find out, which, but you also wanted to make sure that they weren't getting those second chances. And like I said, Braden played a little bit better second half, didn't turn over as much, was able to hit some shots when he did, hit some big free throws down the stretch. Then obviously, Fletcher Lawyer had an incredible game. Trakoff and Rand took over in the second half. Jakari hit some big shots in lieu of CJ, who went down with that injury. It was just a collective effort, which was awesome. Given you're going to play, because it's usually, I feel like it's a game that if we saw a month ago, Purdue's losing that game by 10. Probably, and they were able to, 10. So just credit to them, because one bad game, as we've seen with teams like Florida, one bad game in drought, they were able to get it done.
I know it was tough in the first half, but I honestly feel like there's something that you can take from handling adversity in a game like that, because when you get to a tournament like this, who's to say that if Purdue plays at Texas, they're not going to be down at points in this game, or if they play in Arizona, they're going to be down in that one. So I feel like seeing yourself down in a game like that and then being able to bounce back in the second half could actually be beneficial for this team as we get into this final stretch of the season. But before we get into our Sweet 16 picks, 8 games coming up. Both of our brackets are probably in the trash. I know that mine is, so I'm happy to repick these games in the Sweet 16. But I do want to ask you one fun question, which I ask people every now and then, but do you have a low-key favorite player on this team? Now, outside of the 3 seniors, because I feel like it's very easy to pick one of those guys that have been here for 4 years, but do you have like a player that comes off the bench or I'd even take a CJ or a Clough, but just I mean, they wouldn't be the usual answer, but they're one of your
right. That's a good question. Yeah, because everybody who follows our podcast knows that I'm a staunch lawyer supporter. Have been from well before he ever committed to Purdue. He was a kid that when I learned about him, I was like, I want this kid in a Purdue uniform, and I think what he is. But outside of the 3 obviously easy picks, I'm a big Jakari guy. Maybe it's just the Purdue lineage, but I love his defensive tenacity. He's come up with some big shots in key positions. Sometimes he's surprised us with some sneaky athleticism, throw down dunks here and there, which has been fun. But I was really happy to see him, kind of get his moment in the tournament with going down. I love CJ too, but outside the starting 5, I'll probably go with Jakari.
The tournament is here. One of the best times of the year, of course. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets. It's nonstop action from tip to final cutdown. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. After winning its first 2 games, Houston now gets to play at home for the Sweet 16 against Illinois. Our Locked On hosts with both teams got together to preview the matchup.
I want to ask about Houston's got Kingston. You guys have Keaton Wagler. Talk about the wild year that it has been with Illinois, because I feel like, Illinois is a good program, but this was a year that feels like it was an overachieving kind of moment in a lot of ways, right?
I mean, it can be said. Yeah, sure. Especially last year, we had an up and down year led by 2 freshmen who both went in the top 21 in the NBA draft with Kasparas Yakishonis and Will Riley. And this year was kind of not necessarily a complete rebuild like the year before was, where Brad literally replaced 10 guys on the roster. This year, we got Tomislav Ivicic back. We got Kylan Boswell back. We got Ben Humrickhouse back, Jake Davis. We had a nice foundation coming back, but we weren't sure who was going to step up and be that superstar. And certainly nobody thought that the freshman that was ranked 150th in the country would end up stepping up and being that superstar. And I've said this on the show. I firmly believe this. Brad Underwood has this Illini program as one of the most consistent in the country over the last 6-7 years. And we've had some postseason success, but I truly do believe that this year is the best squad that Brad has ever had at Illinois, and I'm really excited to see how far he can take them.
Well, and I think in modern college basketball, it always centers around having both good vets and good underclassmen, and not to sit on Wagler for too long, but you mentioned he was not a top 25 recruit or anything crazy, and I'd assume it was before he had 46 on Purdue, but when did you know, this is a one and done kind of kid, he's real special?
It's funny. You can ask Brad Underwood and Kylan Boswell. They were giving hints to this in the offseason. They were talking about how Brad in particular said that there would be no real drop-off from Kasparas Yakishonis and Will Riley last year. Normally, Illini fans, we're used to this. Brad just kind of mouths off and is full of hyperbole in the offseason just to create hype on his players. But you saw Keaton play almost immediately, and you saw a freshman who just plays at his own pace. He doesn't get sped up. A lot of freshmen nowadays, sometimes they just go a little too fast. Their legs are running a little too fast. Their brains aren't processing at the speed of college basketball. Keaton never really had that issue. Illinois started off the season okay. They've had one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the entire country. I believe they're about 7-3. And then we lost a game in Madison Square Garden to the UConn Huskies at the time. And then there was just kind of a switch. Brad Underwood and the staff saw the development of their freshman guard, and they kind of handed him the keys. And Illinois has been essentially rolling since then. And it's of course, everybody, I think nationally, got introduced to Keaton Wagler at Mackey Arena when he scored 46 points, which is the most a visitor has ever done in that arena. But Illini fans have just been watching. He's a special player. We've arguably, in my opinion, he just had the greatest freshman season that Illinois has ever had. And Illinois has had a lot of good talent come through that door.
Houston's obviously got its own freshman, and I'm sure we'll hit them at some point. But Houston's played AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Koa Pete, Braden Burries, Darius Acuff, a ton of freshmen across the landscape this year, both in non-conference. I mean, they played Tennessee and Nate Ament in Vegas. A lot of big-time freshmen. What sticks out to me about Keaton is that, honestly, look, I mean this in the nicest way possible and really more as a compliment. He's not very athletic. Whereas like Koa Pete is built like an ox, and DeBonsa is a freak of nature, and Darius Acuff's got 5 gears when most people have 4. Keaton's got none of that, and is still a top 10 pick. That's crazy, right? That's crazy.
It's absolutely crazy, and it's absolutely true. I think it's the reason why he was kind of overlooked by all these universities. I mean, keep in mind, Illinois and Minnesota were the only 2 teams or Power 4 teams to offer him a scholarship. When you look at him, he's skinny, he's scrawny, he's not fast. He hasn't dunked the ball one time all year long, and yet there's just that one skill. Oh, he just happens to be really good at basketball. He's very
wild.
Things. I joke around. The equivalent I make is he's kind of like Luka in the NBA, right? Luka's not going to outrun anybody. He's got barely any agility, but he knows how to play angles. He knows how to, get others in foul trouble. He knows how to set his teammates up to be in the right position. That's kind of the skill that Keaton Wagler has. He's not going to wow you on any sort of pro day or NBA combine, but when he's got the basketball in his hands, magic happens.
And you mentioned the teammates: Merkovic, Stojakovic, Ivisic, a bunch of itches.
By the way, shout out to Parker. He's gotten all the names right so far. I know my audience had watched a couple of previous episodes, and when they knew that I was going to do this crossover, they're like, "You got to teach them how to say these names." So far, Parker, you're doing good.
I'm not going to try and do either Ivasic's first name, but tell me about other guys to step up for this team throughout the year, right? Because I think that's part of it. Because Houston will typically play one guy really well and make you beat him with someone else, but Illinois is in the Sweet 16 because they got a lot of those other people too, right?
You nailed it, Parker. So that's why this team is so incredibly dangerous. In the first round against Penn, the other freshman, David Merkovic, had 29 points and 17 rebounds. And quite honestly, if Keaton Wagler wasn't the national story and if he wasn't on this team, I think the nation would know the name David Merkovic. He's really that talented. Then you also have guys like Andrei Stojakovic, who, if you're an older guy like me, you watched his father play in the NBA. But it's funny, Parker. Their games are completely the opposite. Andrei Stojakovic is not a guy necessarily you want shooting 3-point shots. He's a guy who can, once he gets the ball at the top of the key, he puts his head down and he attacks. And then you have Tomislav Visic, his brother Zvonimir Visic, who had arguably the highlight of March Madness so far against VCU with his dunk. You're talking about 2 guys who are 7'1", 7'2". We might as well bring it up now. These are 2 of the taller teams in college basketball. Illinois is the tallest team in all of college basketball. We've had lineups where we have the 7'2" center, 7'1" power forward, 6'10" small forward, and a 6'9" shooting guard, and a 6'6" point guard. I mean, when they go big, they can absolutely go really big. And that's kind of a reason the rebounding numbers are so solid, and other teams have trouble responding to that.
And Houston's a team that I think typically in Sampson terms is a very strong rebounding team. And it's not always because they are tall. This year they've got some size. They really recruit to wingspan. And I heard Kellen say this at a clinic one time, but he's like, once we got 3 or 4 years into this thing to kind of pick who we were going after, they were taking the 6'9" guy with a gigantic wingspan over the 7-foot guy from an athleticism standpoint pretty much every time. And for the folks that, on the Illini side that haven't seen, JoJo Tugler is legitimately 6'7", 6'8", and legitimately has a 7.5-foot wingspan. He's like knees, hands past his knees, doesn't have to bend over, scratch him kind of guy. And it really does look different the way it plays out on the floor because they're just constantly flying around, tipping the ball out, and that kind of stuff. Rebounding seems like going to play a big role this season. Now, I'm sure we're going to talk at some point about the fact that Houston lost 3 games in a row this year, and that was kind of like the first time that's happened in a long time. I want to ask about why can't Illinois win a game decided by 4 or less points? Like, why are the close games? Because they've got a ton of talent. Give the ball to Wagler, get out of the way. Like what's the issue there?
Yeah, no, we're all trying to figure it out. It's not just that even. Like the Michigan State game, like Illinois lost 5 of their last 9 games coming into the national tournament. The Michigan State game, it was without Kylan Boswell, who was not playing. The Wisconsin game, again, Michigan State went into overtime. Wisconsin was without Kylan Boswell and without Andrei Stojakovic. That game went into overtime. Illinois really has an 8-man rotation, and Kylan Boswell missed almost a month in the middle of the season. So that 8-man turned into a 7-man. It's not like Brad incorporated anybody else into the rotation. Those guys were grinding. And then Andrei Stojakovic sprains his ankle against Michigan State. And so really we were just running with 6 guys for a while. And, you know, it's one of the, I wish I had an answer for you. And trust me, Illini Nation, we wonder the same thing. It's what makes me most nervous because Illinois blew out Penn. Illinois blew out VCU. But we know that a team like Houston, that game's going to go right down to the final buzzer. And if there's 2 minutes left and it's a 1 or 2 possession game, Illinois has shown that they haven't been able to close it out in the past. So all of a sudden, Illini fans are going to be sitting at the edge of their seats trying to figure out whether they can close it out or not. Because if they do, it's going to be one of the first times all season long.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.